Hello. Hi. Um, Welcome to Emerald Lake. We're doing some more fairy tales this afternoon stream, as I call it. And then tonight we'll do spooky again. I swapped out the order, compared to, not yesterday, the day before, and Sunday. But we'll do cozier fairy tales now, and then we'll get to spooky tonight. Sorry I didn't do streams yesterday. Things happen, and I looked after me first instead. Hello. Alrighty. Sorry. Adjusting things and such. Ah! Oh, and I forgot to do that. Fetster! Thank you for the sub. I appreciate that. We've got another subscription. Woohoo! Little dancing dinos. All right. Well, that's a good way to start today. All right. What was I? Yes. Okay. So we're reading more stories from the Red Fairy book, and today's first up is Brother and Sister is what it's called. My renew is tomorrow. Oh, okay. 3 months already. Wow. Yeah, I know. Oh my goodness. We've been here for a bit. Mine was actually yesterday. Oh, but because I wasn't streaming. Yeah, makes sense. Hello, everyone. Yep, very fair. Okay. What was I? Yes, the Red Fairy book. Eep. Okay. the fairy books we're going through, reading the stories, and I've got the next one plucked out. It's called Brother and Sister, which is interesting. We'll hear about specifically those two, I guess. But we'll do that now. And reminder, redeems, you can drop them while we're reading, and I'll get to them as soon as we finish the stories. And if I don't have redeems when I finish the stories, I'll give you a couple moments. But then if there's still nothing, I'll just move on to the next story. Unless, of course, people specifically request, hey, let's just focus on story time. Then I will focus on story time and less on redeems. But yeah, okay. She's a great storyteller, Dawn. It was a surprise. What? Oh, I thank you for the compliment. I'm a little confused on the second half. But okay. Here we go. Brother and Sister. Boop boop. Come on, things. Be visible. There you go. Our first story. Brothers took Sister by the hand and said, "Look here, we haven't had one single happy hour since our mother died." This is a very fun first sentence. Brother took Sister by the hand and said, "Look here, we haven't had one single happy hour since our mother died. That stepmother of ours beats us regularly every day, and if we dare go near her, she kicks us away. We never get anything but hard, dry crusts to eat. Why, the dog under the table is better off than we are. She does throw him a good morsel or two now and then. Oh dear, if our own dear mother only knew all about it. Come along and let us go forth into the wide world together." Okay, so just a bunch of dark exposition before we run away to the woods, I guess. So off they started through fields and meadows, over hedges and ditches, and walked the whole day long. And when it rained, Sister said, "Heaven and our hearts are weeping together." Towards evening they came to a large forest, and were so tired out with hunger and their long walk, as well as all their trouble, that they crept into a hollow tree and soon fell fast asleep. Hello. Good to see you, Darkstorm. Next morning, when they woke up, the sun was already high in the heavens and was shining down bright and warm into the tree. Then said Brother, "I'm so thirsty, sister. If I did but know where to find a little stream, I'd go and have a drink. I do believe I hear one." He jumped up, took sister by the hand, and they set off to hunt for the brook. Now their cruel stepmother was in reality a witch, and she knew perfectly well that the two children had run away. She had crept secretly after them, and had cast her spells over all the streams in the forest. Oh boy. Presently the children found a little brook dancing and glittering under the stones, and Brother was eager to drink of it, but as it rushed past, Sister heard it murmuring, "Who drinks of me will be a tiger. Who drinks of me will be a tiger." I don't know how you hear that from the water, but okay. So she cried out, "Oh, dear brother, pray don't drink, or you'll be turned into a wild beast and tear me to pieces." Brother was dreadfully thirsty, but he did not drink. "Very well," said he, I'll wait till we come to the next spring." When they came to the second brook, Sister heard it repeating too, "Who drinks of me will be a wolf. I, who drinks of me will be a wolf." This is consistent in this transition from book to text, I think. They keep inserting the letter/word I, that I think must be just a wrinkle or the way it's done up. I don't think that's supposed to be there. Aren't you sleepy? I am, but I shouldn't be. This is my first stream. What are you asking me that for? I know I'm yawning lots, but I'll do that. Oh my gosh. I'll do that because I just am not getting enough oxygen because I'm talking so much. Sorry. "Who drinks of me will be a wolf." And she cried, "Oh, brother, pray don't drink here either, or you'll be turned into a wolf and eat me up." Again Brother did not drink, but he said, "Well, I'll wait a little longer till we reach the next stream, but then, whatever you may see, I really must drink, for I can bear this thirst no longer." Whoa. And when they got to the third brook, Sister heard it say as it rushed past, "Who drinks of me will be a roe. Who drinks of me will be a roe." And she begged, "Ah, brother, don't drink yet, or you'll become a roe and run away from me." If you didn't know, a roe is a deer. But her brother was already kneeling by the brook and bending over it to drink, and sure enough, no sooner had his lips touched the water than he fell on the grass and transformed into a little roebuck. Sister cried bitterly over her poor bewitched brother, and the little roe wept too and sat sadly by her side. Okay, so it didn't run away at least. At last the girl said, "Never mind, dear little fawn, I will never forsake you." And she took off her golden garter and tied it round the roe's neck. Okay, no worries, Cage. Um, then she plucked rushes and plaited a soft cord of them, which she fastened to the collar. So she's made a collar and leash for her brother that's a deer now. Okay. When she had done this, she led the roe farther and farther right into the depths of the forest. After they had gone a long, long way, they came to a little house, and when the girl looked into it, she found it was quite empty, and she thought, perhaps we might stay and live here. So she hunted up leaves and moss to make a soft bed for the little roe, and every morning and evening she went out and gathered roots, nuts, and berries for herself, and tender young grass for the fawn. And he fed from her hand and played round her and seemed quite happy. I'm wondering then if he had turned into one of the other animals, he would have also just hung out, but, because she was like, if you're turned into this animal, you'll kill me. And then roe, you'll run away from me, but he didn't run. So, it's under the assumptions that you forget all your identity. And in some of these, the transformed people do forget everything about their life and they just become animal. But in other ones, it's like this, where they just are in the shape of this new animal instead of person. So, I don't know, maybe brother should have gone with the tiger or the wolf. Might have been more fun. Hi, Annie. Okay. But in the evening, when sister was tired, she said her prayers and then laid her head on the fawn's back and fell sound asleep with it as a pillow. And if brother had but kept his natural form, really it would have been a most delightful kind of life. They had been living for some time in the forest in this way, when it came to pass that the king of that country had a great hunt through the woods. Then the whole forest rang with such a blowing of horns, baying of dogs, and joyful cries of huntsmen, that the little roe heard it and longed to join in too. I don't think that's going to go well. You're a deer. You're not a tiger or wolf, and you're actually prey, friend. No. Said he to the sister, do let me go off to the hunt. I can't keep still any longer. And he begged and prayed till at last she consented. Sorry, yawn machine. I don't think this is a good idea at all. But, said she, mind you, come back in the evening. I shall lock my door fast for fear of those wild huntsmen. So to make sure of my knowing you, knock at the door and say, my sister dear, open, I'm here. If you don't speak, I shan't open the door. This is not going to go well. So off sprang the little roe, and he felt quite well and happy in the free open air. Could you not have done this when it wasn't the hunt? The king and his huntsmen soon saw the beautiful creature and started in pursuit, but they could not come up with it, and whenever they thought they were sure to catch it, it bounded off to one side into the bushes and disappeared. When night came on, it ran home, and knocking at the door of the little house, cried, my sister dear, open, I'm here. The door opened, and he ran in and rested all night on his soft mossy bed. Although I don't like it, but I'm going to sleep. I'm really sleepy. So, good night, Raven. Oh, I'm sorry you don't like it? Oh, I don't, I'm confused. But go ahead and sleep. Take care. Sorry you don't like it. Dew on the grass. Oh no, it's another Golden Mermaid, isn't it? I know we read something with Golden Mermaid. Wasn't the train of the story with Golden Mermaid just like, hey, you gotta go get this mermaid, but there was like a bunch of steps in the way that was useless? Wasn't that it? I don't remember it well enough. My memory isn't always great. I mean, I don't like to go. Oh, okay. Thank you. I mean, no one's perfect, but thank you. That clarifies that. I feel better. Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure what to think of this story yet. If it's Golden Mermaid or not, my brain isn't good enough at remembering it. Oh, yeah, you're right, too. Maybe that's where the misunderstanding was born. Anyway, okay. Ah, do 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 do. Yes, the door has come back, or the deer has come back to the door. He knocked. He said, "Sorry." Well, we figured it out. It's okay. The door opened, and he ran in and rested all night on his soft, mossy bed. Next morning, the hunt began again, and as soon as the little roe I'm gonna do this all stream. This is not fair to you guys. I'm sorry. Next morning, the hunt began, and as soon as the little roe heard the horns and the ho ho of the huntsman, he could not resist. He could not rest another moment, and said, "Sister, open the door. I must get out." So Sister opened the door and said, "Now mind and get back by nightfall, and say your little rhyme." I don't like this. um, see you tomorrow. See you tomorrow. I will not be streaming tomorrow, but I'll be on later tonight. Maybe that's your tomorrow. But okay. Bye bye. Sleep well. Do. Stretch. I will redeem after story. Okay. Okay, so Sister let him out and said, "Get back here by nightfall and remember to say the thing at the door." As soon as the king and his huntsmen saw the roe with the golden collar, they all rode off after it, but it was far too quick and nimble for them. This went on all day, but as evening came on, the huntsmen had gradually encircled the roe, and one of them wounded it slightly in the foot, so that it limped and ran off slowly. Oh. Then the huntsman stole after it as far as the little house and heard it call out, "My sister dear, open, I'm here." And he saw the door open and close immediately. The fawn had run in. I think they're missing the word after, maybe. The huntsman remembered all this carefully and went off straight to the king and told him all he had seen and heard. "Tomorrow we will hunt again," said the king. This is not good. Come on, guys. Poor sister was terribly frightened when she saw how her little fawn had been wounded. Eep. Okay. She washed off the blood, bound up the injured foot with herbs, and said, "Now, dear, go and lie down and rest so that your wound may heal." The wound was really so slight that it was quite well next day, and the little roe did not feel it at all. No sooner did it hear the sounds of hunting in the forest than it cried, "I can't stand this. I must be there too. I'll take care they shan't catch me. I don't understand why you have to be there. You're not hunting with them. They are just hunting you. This makes no sense, you little man. None of them care that the deer just talked? Yeah, clearly not. I mean, also in this, the water talks if it has a spell on it, at least to the little girl. So, like, people be hearing things. Sometimes fairy tale logic is so inconsistent. Like, you talk, that's no big deal. Wait a minute, you talk to another thing? No, okay, fine. Alright, but he says they won't catch it. Sister began to cry and said, "Ooh." She begins to cry and says, They are certain to kill you, and then I shall be left all alone in the forest and forsaken by everyone. I can't and won't let you out." "Then I shall die of grief," replied the roe, "for when I hear that horn I feel as if I must jump right out of my skin." You're an idiot. That's what it is. You're an idiot. So at last, when sister found there was nothing else to be done, she opened the door with a heavy heart, and the roe darted forth full of glee and health. Oh my gosh. The roe darted forth full of glee and health into the forest. As soon as the king saw the roe, he said to his huntsman, "Now then, give chase to it all day till evening, but mind and be careful not to hurt it." Oh, okay, so we do have some concern maybe about it now. When the sun had set, the king said to his huntsman, "Now come and show me the little house in the wood." And when he got to the house, he knocked at the door and said, "My sister dear, open, I'm here." Then the door opened and the king walked in, and there stood the loveliest maiden he had ever seen. Ooh boy, okay. As far as we are aware that was a youngin', but we also don't know how old this king is, so there's that. The girl was much startled when, instead of the little roe she expected, she saw a man with a gold crown on his head walk in. But the king looked kindly at her, held out his hand, and said, "Will you come with me to my castle and be my dear wife?" "Oh yes," replied the maiden, "but you must let my roe come too. I could not possibly forsake it." "It shall stay with you as long as you live, and shall want for nothing," the king promised. In the meantime the roe came bounding in, and sister tied the rush cord once more to its collar, took the end in her hand, and so they left the little house in the forest together. "Oh, thank you, the black rose toast brought." Thank you. I'm a little like, why do we need brother deer to have a collar? And well, maybe the collar so we can visibly see that it's brother instead of just another deer, but why does he need a leash? If he leaves the house and comes back on his own, he does not need a leash. He has full ability to do everything. This is very odd. Anyway, but okay. Then she's tied it to the collar and they left the house in the forest together. Yes. The king lifted the lovely maiden onto his horse and led her to his castle, where the wedding was celebrated with the greatest splendor. The roe was petted and caressed, and ran about at will in the palace gardens. Now, all this time, the wicked stepmother, who had been the cause of these poor children's misfortunes and trying adventures, was feeling fully persuaded that sister had been torn to pieces by wild beasts, and brother shot to death in the shape of a roe. Why would sister have been torn to pieces? I don't understand your logic, witch, because if she was torn to pieces, then he was turned into one of the other animals. But if he was shot because he was a roe, there's no reason to believe that she was torn to pieces. Nothing makes sense. But okay. When she heard how happy and prosperous they were, her heart was filled with envy and hatred, and she could think of nothing but how to bring some fresh misfortune on them. Her own daughter, who was as hideous as night and had only one eye, reproached her by saying, "It is I who ought to have had this good luck and been queen." Why is it every time they make the bad people also very ugly, or so they say? Just feels like, was it necessary? Do we care? Oh well. "Be quiet, will you?" said the old woman. "When the time comes I shall be at hand." Now after some time it happened one day when the king was out hunting that the queen gave birth to a beautiful little boy. Alrighty. Well then, the old witch thought here was a good chance for her, so she took the form of the lady in waiting, and hurrying to the into the room where the queen lay in her bed, called out, "The bath is quite ready. It will help to make you strong again. Come, let us be quick, for fear the water should get cold." Her daughter was at hand too, and between them they carried the queen, who was still very weak, into the bathroom and laid her in the bath. Then they locked the door and ran away. They took care beforehand to make a blazing hot fire under the bath, so that the lovely young queen might be suffocated. As soon as they were sure this was the case, the old witch tied a cap on her daughter's head and laid her in the queen's bed. Okay, so they confused here. They made to light a hot fire under the bath, blazing hot, so that she would be suffocated. I don't think they understand in this story how any of that works. Are you saying that she drowned? Are you saying that she was burned from the hot water? What are you saying? Anyway. But okay, I guess our sister, may or may not be dead now. Unclear. Because it says that as soon as they had made sure of that works out. But, okay. The old witch tied a cap on her daughter's head and laid her in the queen's bed. She managed, too, to make her figure and general appearance look like the queen's, but even her power could not restore the eye she had lost, so she made her lie on the side of the missing eye in order to prevent the king's noticing anything. In the evening, when the king came home and heard the news of his son's birth, he was full of delight, and insisted on going at once to his dear wife's bedside to see how she was getting on. But the old witch cried out, "Take care and keep the curtains drawn. Don't let the light get into the queen's eyes. She must be kept perfectly quiet." So the king went away and never knew that it was a false queen who lay in the bed. When midnight came and everyone in the palace was sound asleep, the nurse, who alone watched by the baby's cradle in the nursery, saw the door open gently. And who should come in but the real queen? Okay, so she is okay. How did they make sure that the queen was suffocated? What were they thinking that a fire did? No sense has come from this, and I worry about the logic in these things, but then I just am glad that we have generally grown as a peoples to have more logic. Again, generally, but okay, so the real queen has come in anyway. She lifted the child from its cradle and laid it on her arm and nursed it for some time. Then she carefully shook up the pillows of the little bed, laid the baby down, and tucked the coverlet in all around him. She did not forget the little roe either, but went to the corner where it lay and gently stroked its back. Then she silently left the room, and next morning when the nurse asked the sentries if they had seen anyone go into the castle that night, they all said, "No, we saw no one at all." Why was the nurse in charge of that? Why does any of that? Oh my gosh, okay. For many nights the queen came in the same way, but she never spoke a word, and the nurse was too frightened to say anything about her visits. Why are you frightened about her visits? We're missing pieces of this. How did the nurse have issue with this if the baby and the nurse are in a separate room from the fake queen lying in bed as a trick? Okay, we're missing info. Everything's disconnected. After some little time had elapsed, the queen spoke one night and said, "Is my child well? Is my roe well? I'll come back twice, and then farewell." The nurse made no answer. Why not? But as soon as the queen had disappeared, she went to the king and told him all. The king exclaimed, "Good heavens, what do you say? Why does he say good heavens? Why is he confused? As far as he knows, she's just alive and fine. What? Nonsense. Thank you for the follow, Flanicarus. Thank you. Um, okay. He says, "Good heavens, what do you say? I'll watch myself tonight by the child's bed." Yeah, why is she doing all this in secret? Like, or why is she going off to the baby and the deer and not paying any attention to her own bed? Like, I don't. What is happening? What is happening? I don't understand what's going on. And she says, "I'll come back twice and then farewell." Why didn't you say anything before? And where is the disconnect happening? There's so much lack of reason and logic. Whatever. Okay. Okay. So the king's gonna do it. When the evening came, he went to the nursery, and at midnight the queen appeared and said, "Is my child well? Is my roe well? I'll come back once and then farewell." And she nursed and petted the child as usual before she disappeared. Why is no one? Oh, the king dared not trust himself to speak to her, but the following night he kept watching again. Why? Why can't you speak to her? I thought, as far as you know, this is just your wife. What is the surprise to this? What do you? What the? Anyway, so he said he'd do it the next night. That night, when the queen came, she said, "Is my child well? Is my roe well? I've come this once, and now farewell." Then the king could restrain himself no longer, but sprang to her side and cried, "You can be no one but my dear wife." And she's not actually, like, what? Where is the question about that? And then I think this is the problem. Um, I think this sentence clarifies it all, where they needed to say something previously when, like, the queen first showed up. But anyway, it says, "Yes," said she, "I am your dear wife." And in the same moment she was restored to life and was as fresh and well and rosy as ever. So I guess when she was appearing to the baby and the nurse, she was like a ghost or a zombie or something. Which, okay, that clarifies that when they said that they had made sure that she was suffocated, that they probably actually did make sure of it, but then did they get rid of the body? What did they do? And I guess she's here. But then also, like, oh, so your husband recognizing that you're his wife is what makes you come back to life? This is weird too. But okay. They really should have specified that she was properly dead, because, like, what? But okay, she's back to life there. And also, if you were like, "My wife is coming in as a ghost," would you not be rushing back to your other wife in bed like, "You were a ghost last night"? And then she'd be like, "I was a what?" And then there would be problems. Like, wouldn't there? No? Oh my god. Okay. Then she told the king all the cruel things the wicked witch and her daughter had done. The king had them both arrested at once and brought to trial. So for multiple days, the fake queen has been doing something, maybe just hiding in the bed, but she's been around. He knew to find her and arrest her, but we don't know what she was doing. Again, you didn't tell her about the ghost or try and figure this out earlier? No? Okay. They were arrested at once, brought to trial, and they were condemned to death. The daughter was led into the forest, where the wild beasts tore her to pieces. Oof. And the old witch was burnt at the stake. Witch, yeah. As soon as she was reduced to ashes, the spell was taken off the little roe, and he was restored to his natural shape once more. And so brother and sister lived happily ever after. The end. Queen came back to life. Oh, I guess she was actually dead. Basically. So many questions in the story. Yeah, a lot. I mean, we should have known that it wasn't going to be terribly good at actually informing us of things, considering brother took sister by the hand. Look here, we haven't once been happy since our mother died, is a pretty significant start. Like, okay, we're really jumping in, huh? Oh. But there you go. That's the end of that one. I know most of these stories have sketchy logic, but this one was especially lacking in it. Well, exactly. They're never great, but this was a lot. Okay, I'm gonna do a quick stretch. Hydrate. We're yawning. Eep. Okay. Um, and then the next story is Princess Rosette. And that one looks about as long, maybe a bit longer. But that's the next one that I have on the docket. Ooh, okay, we'll do some origami wrestling. Fun. All right. But okay, first, the good stretch. Alrighty, we'll do the origami wrestling now. Okay, here we go. Unfortunately, our typical or our previous origami wrestling sounds were a little different from this one because we took out a bunch of cranes from the basket and put them in the plastic bag. If you remember, we finished off 100, so they went in their own little spot. So there was less of them in there, so I went to the little plastic container that has all of the other requests, the not crane origami. Ooh, okay. It was a mess of a tale. I will confirm that much for you. It was something. But you're all right. There will be more, I'm sure. And It's in the VODs now. Okay. Humming though now. Here we go. Alright, that was our humming. Oop. Did we have... Did we have another... Okay. Do we have another redeem, or shall I move on to... What was the title again? Princess Rosette. That's what it's called. I am taking beverages. Ooh. It is time for the next story then. There we go. Oh no, glass jar tappy taps, okay. Hold on, then. Alright, and we'll do the glass jar and then the next story. Okay. It's all good. Here we go.
Okay, that was our glass jar tips. Haha. Right, and now... Ooh. Princess Rosette. Hee hee. Okay. Oh, of course, Andrew. He's good. Okay. Where is this? Alright. Here we go. Princess Rosette. Once upon a time, there lived a king and queen who had 2 beautiful sons and 1 little daughter who was so pretty that no one who saw her could help loving her. When it was time for the christening of the princess, the queen, as she always did, sent for all the fairies to be present at the ceremony, and afterwards invited them to a splendid banquet. When it was over and they were preparing to go away, the queen said to them, "Do not forget your usual good custom. Tell me what is going to happen to Rosette," for that was the name they had given the princess. But the fairies said they had left their book of magic at home, and they would come another day and tell her. "Ah," said the queen, "I know very well what that means. You have nothing good to say, but at least I beg that you will not hide anything from me." So after a great deal of persuasion they said, "Madam, we fear that Rosette may be the cause of great misfortunes to her brothers. They may even meet with their death through her. That is all we have been able to foresee about your dear little daughter. We are very sorry to have nothing better to tell you." Then they went away, leaving the queen very sad, so that the king noticed it and asked her what was the matter. "You weren't at the banquet?" Why is it so often the kings are like, "Yeah, I just don't know anything." Okay. The queen said that she had been sitting too near the fire and had burnt all the flax that was upon her distaff. "Liar. Oh, is that all?" said the king. And he went up into the garret and brought her down more flax than she could spin in 100 years. But the queen still looked sad, and the king asked her again what was the matter. She answered that she had been walking by the river and had dropped one of her green satin slippers into the water. "Oh, if that's all," said the king, and he sent to all the shoemakers in his kingdom, and they very soon made the queen 10,000 green satin slippers, but still she looked sad. Yeah. Okay. He's really trying, though. But the queen still looked sad, and the king asked her again what was the matter. She answered that she had... Oh, no, wait. No, she still looked sad. This one. Sorry, wrong paragraph. So the king asked her again what was the matter, and this time she answered that in eating her porridge too hastily, she had swallowed her wedding ring. "How would you have done that, lady?" But it so happened that the king knew better, for he had the ring himself. "Well, why do you have it?" "What?" And he said, I, you are not telling me the truth." I think that "I" is out of nowhere. "Oh, you are not telling me the truth, for I have your ring here in my purse." Then the queen was very much ashamed, and she saw that the king was vexed with her. So she told him all that the fairies had predicted about Rosette, and begged him to think begged him to think how the misfortunes might be prevented. Then it was the king's turn to look sad, and at last he said, "I see no way of saving our sons except by having Rosette's head cut off while she is still little." No. And this is reading far too much like all the classic old stories of you're trying to prevent the prediction is what makes it happen. So I don't like this. Okay. Oh. But the queen cried that she would far rather have her own head cut off, and that he had better think of something else, for she would never consent to such a thing. So they thought and thought, but they could not tell what to do, until at last the queen heard that in a great forest near the castle there was an old hermit who lived in a hollow tree, and that people came from far and near to consult him. So she said, I had better go and ask his advice. Perhaps he will know what to do to prevent the misfortunes which the fairies foretold. She set out very early the next morning, mounted upon a pretty little white mule which was shod with solid gold, and two of her ladies rode behind her on beautiful horses. When they reached the forest they dismounted, for the trees grew so thickly that the horses could not pass, and made their way on foot to the hollow tree where the hermit lived. At first, when he saw them coming, he was vexed, for he was not fond of ladies, but when he recognized the queen, he said, You are welcome, queen. What do you come to ask of me? Then the queen told him all the fairies had foreseen for Rosette, and asked what she should do. And the hermit answered that she must shut the princess up in a tower and never let her come out of it again. Oh, classic. The queen thanked and rewarded him. What? Okay, and hastened back to the castle to tell the king. When he heard the news, he had a great tower built as quickly as possible. Did you really need a whole adventure to find that out, by the way? Like, you couldn't have thought that up? Anyway. Hastened back to the castle to tell the king. When he heard, he had a tower built as quickly as possible, and there the princess was shut up. And the king and queen and her two brothers went to see her every day that she might not be dull. Well, that's good that they still go and see her, but doesn't that kind of negate the point of why shut her away then? I don't fully know what they're planning. But okay. Better than it could be for her. The eldest brother was called the Great Prince, and the second the Little Prince. They loved their sister dearly, for she was the sweetest, prettiest princess who was ever seen, and the least little smile from her was worth more than 100 pieces of gold. When Rosette was 15 years old, the Great Prince went to the king and asked if it would not soon be time for her to be married, and the Little Prince put the same question to the queen. Their majesties were amused at them thinking of it, but did not make any reply, and soon after both the king and the queen were taken ill and died on the same day. Oh, jeez. Everybody was sorry, Rosette especially, and all the bells in the kingdom were tolled. Then all the dukes and counselors put the Great Prince upon a golden throne and crowned him with a diamond crown, and they all cried, Long live the king. And after that there was nothing but feasting and rejoicing. The new king and his brothers said to one another, Now that we are the masters, let us take our sister out of that dull tower which she is so tired of. They had only to go across the garden to reach the tower, which was very high and stood up in a corner. Rosette was busy at her embroidery, but when she saw her brothers she got up, and taking the king's hand cried, Good morning, dear brother. Now that you are king, please take me out of this dull tower, for I am so tired of it. Then she began to cry, but the king kissed her and told her to dry her tears, as that was just what they had come for, to take her out of the tower and bring her to their beautiful castle. And the prince showed her the pocket full of sugar plums he had brought for her, and said, Make haste, and let us get away from this ugly tower, and very soon the king will arrange a grand marriage for you. Okay. When Rosette saw the beautiful garden, full of fruit and flowers, with green grass and sparkling fountains, she was so astonished that not a word could she say, for she had never in her life seen anything like it before. She looked about her and ran hither and thither, gathering fruit and flowers, and her little dog Frisk, who was bright green all over and had but one ear, danced before her, crying bow wow wow, and turning head over heels in the most enchanting way. I wonder, was he a little white dog that, rolling in all the grass, turned green, or was he a natural bright green? And in the latter case, how was he a bright green? And considering our radioactive looking little frogs, I would like to have this dog. Wow, wow, wow. I speak dog and he has quite the mouth on him. Of course. Although to be fair, it's bow dash wow dash wow. But yes. Everybody was amused at Frisk's antics, but all of a sudden he ran away into a little wood. Ooh, not as fast. Okay, good. But okay, he's run away now. And the princess was following him when, to her great delight, she saw a peacock, who was spreading his tail in the sunshine. Rosette thought she had never seen anything so pretty. She could not take her eyes off him, and there she stood entranced until the king and the prince came up and asked what was amusing her so much. She showed them the peacock and asked what it was, and they answered that it was a bird which people sometimes ate. "What?" said the princess. "Do they dare to kill that beautiful creature and eat it? I declare that I will never marry anyone but the king of the peacocks, and when I am queen I will take very good care that nobody eats any of my subjects." Okay. At this the king was very much astonished. Yeah. "But, little sister," said he, "where shall we find the king of the peacocks?" "Oh, wherever you like, sire," she answered. "But I will never marry anyone else." This is the problem with raising someone in a tower away from everything else. They say things like this when they reach the real world. Oh no, okay. After this, they took Rosette to the beautiful castle, and the peacock was brought with her, and told to walk about on the terrace outside her windows, so that she might always see him. Okay, so you just told the bird what to do? Okay. That's not exactly how birds really work, but okay. She may always see him, and then the ladies of the court came to see the princess, and they brought her beautiful presents, dresses and ribbons and sweetmeats. Eep. Okay. Diamonds and pearls and dolls and embroidered slippers, and she was so well brought up and said thank you so prettily and was so gracious that everyone went away delighted with her. Meanwhile, the king and the prince were considering how they should find the king of the peacocks. There was such a person in the world. And first of all, they had a portrait made of the princess, which was so like her that you really would not have been surprised if it had spoken to you. Then they said to her, "Since you will not marry anyone but the king of the peacocks, we are going out together into the wide world to search for him. If we find him, you shall be very glad. In the meantime, mind you take good care of our kingdom. I have a feeling this is where they die." Is this better or worse than instantly falling for the first man she sees? Because that seems to be the other sheltered princess option. I mean, she did, though. She literally saw the peacock and said, "I want to marry the king of those." So she kind of did. She said that. I want it. So, the difference is that before she saw a man, she saw a bird, which was the male bird. She didn't say that to the peahen. She said it to the peacock. So, I mean, she might be thinking that she wants to marry the literal bird. She might be thinking she wants to marry the human person in charge of all those birds. I don't know. But it reads not too different. Anyway, okay. Freaking sheltered princess things. I like the way you had worded it. Okay. So they're leaving and she needs to take better care. Honestly, could be either. Yep, could be. Ooh, okay. Where was it? Yes, they said take good care of the kingdom.
Rosette thanked them for all the trouble they were taking on her account and promised to take great care of the kingdom, and only to amuse herself by looking at the peacock. You could have other hobbies, babe. And making Frisk dance while they were away. See, that's not bad. Okay. So they set out and asked everyone they met, "Do you know the king of the peacocks?" But the answer was always no, no. Could be that there is no king of the peacocks and you guys are ridiculous for following your home, like the equivalent of a homeschooled, kind of self-taught in tower lady. Like, she didn't even know what the peacock was and declared that there would be a king. Who said that? Her. She didn't even know what they were. How does she know if there is a king of the peacocks? Anyway. Then they went on so far that no one has ever been farther, and at last they came to the kingdom of the cockchafers. Okay. They had never before seen such a number of cockchafers. Is this a real thing? What is that? Hi, Bratty. Is this a real? A moment for Googling. It's a beetle. It's also called a doodle bug. Aww. I like that it's called a doodle bug. Um, I'm gonna read what they say here, and you can enjoy me saying those words a bunch. But I'm in my head hearing doodle bug, because it's just it's such a cute name for a beetle. Okay. They had never before seen Maybug. Yeah, they had never before seen such a number of cockchafers, and the buzzing was so loud that the king was afraid he should be deafened by it. He asked the most distinguishing looking cockchafer they met if he knew where they could find the king of the peacocks. "Sire," replied the cockchafer, "his kingdom is 30,000 leagues from this. You have come the longest way." "Oh no." "And how do you know that?" said the king. "Oh," said the cockchafer, "we all know you very well, since we spend 2 or 3 months in your garden every year." Lovely. Thereupon the king and the prince made great friends with him, and they all walked arm in arm and dined together. How big is this cockchafer if they can walk arm in arm with it? And afterwards the cockchafer showed them all the curiosities of his strange country, where the tiniest green leaf costs a gold piece and more. Wow. Then they set out again to finish their journey, and this time, as they knew the way, they were not long upon the road. Well, I imagine still it took a while because it was a long way to go. What was it? They said 30,000 leagues? 30,000 leagues, yeah. So still kind of a long way. It was easy to guess that they had come into the right place. Oh, no, wait. Then they set out again. Not long upon the road. Yeah, okay. It was easy to guess that they had come to the right place, for they saw peacocks in every tree, and their cries could be heard a long way off. When they reached the city, they found it full of men and women who were dressed entirely in peacock's feathers, which were evidently thought prettier than anything else. So, I guess Sheltered Princess wasn't crazy. Their kingdom really exists. There probably is a king. Here we go. They soon met the king, yay, who was driving about in a beautiful little golden carriage, which glittered with diamonds and was drawn at full speed by 12 peacocks. The king and the prince were delighted to see that the king of the peacocks was as handsome as possible. He had curly golden hair and was very pale, and he wore a crown of peacock's feathers, so it sounds like he is a human man that rules over the peacocks. Lovely. When he saw Rosette's brothers, he knew at once that they were strangers, and stopping his carriage, he sent for them to speak to him. When they had greeted him, they said, "Sire, we have come from very far away to show you a beautiful portrait." So saying, they drew from their traveling bag the picture of Rosette.
The king looked at it in silence a long time, but at last he said, I could not have believed that there was such a beautiful princess in the world. Yay, he likes her. Lovely. Indeed, she is really 100 times as pretty as that, said her brothers. I think you must be making fun of me, replied the king of the peacocks. Sire, said the prince, my brother is a king, like yourself. He is called the king. I am called the prince, and that is the portrait of our sister, the princess Rosette. We have come to ask if you would like to marry her. She is as good as she is beautiful, and we will give her a bushel of gold pieces for her dowry. Oh, with all my heart, replied the king, and I will make her very happy. She shall have whatever she likes, and I shall love her dearly. Only I warn you that if she is not as pretty as you have told me, I will have your heads cut off. Oh no, she's not going to be as pretty as they said. That's how they're going to die. Oh no. Because previously it was said that the portrait was smack on, so them saying that she was prettier was excessive. Oh no, okay. Oh, certainly, we quite agree to that, said the brothers in one breath. Very well, off with you into prison, and stay there until the princess arrives. Well, is someone going to send a message? She doesn't know where you are. Okay. And the princess were so sure, and the princes were so sure that Rosette was far prettier than her portrait that they went without a murmur. The princes? Was there a second prince that was going? And I thought you guys were off to prison. What? Little misstep there. But anyway, okay, they were kindly treated, and that they might not feel dull, the king came often to see them. Okay. Oh no, they did. They just went to prison. Okay. And that they might not feel dull, the king came often to see them. They were kindly treated, and as for Rosette's portrait, that was taken up to the palace, and the king did nothing but gaze at it all day and night. A little creepy. As the king and the prince had to stay in prison, they sent a letter to the princess telling her to pack up all her treasures as quickly as possible, okay, and come to them, as the king of the peacocks was waiting to marry her. But they did not say that they were in prison for fear of making her uneasy. Alrighty. If he's so worried over them, why lock them in prison? Yeah, I don't know what's going on. It's just so odd. But okay. When Rosette received the letter, she was so delighted that she ran about telling everyone that the king of the peacocks was found, and she was going to marry him. Guns were fired and fireworks let off. Everyone had as many cakes and sweetmeats as he wanted, and for 3 days everybody who came to see the princess was presented with a slice of bread and jam, and a nightingale's egg, and some hippocras. Hippocras? I don't know what that is. Ooh. But you waited 3 days when people are visiting? Why are you not going? Maybe y'all should have told her that you were in prison, because she doesn't seem to have any problem. But okay. After having thus entertained her friends, she distributed her dolls among them. Is that all you have? And left her brother's kingdom to the care of the wisest old men in the city. Lovely. Okay. I was telling them to take charge of everything, not to spend any money, but save it all up until the king should return. And what if the king never returned because you got him killed? What is that? And above all, not to forget to feed her peacock, of course. Then she set out, only taking with her her nurse and the nurse's daughter and the little green dog Frisk. Okay, so he is perpetually green, and I want to know how. Anyway, they took a boat and put out to sea, carrying with them the bushel of gold pieces and enough dresses to last the princess 10 years if she wore 2 every day.
and they did nothing but laugh and sing. That's a lot of dresses to bring. The boat didn't sink. The nurse asked the boatman, Can you take us? Can you take us to the kingdom of the peacocks? But he answered, Oh no, oh no. Then she said, You must take us, you must take us. And he answered, Very soon, very soon. And the nurse said, Will you take us, will you take us? And the boatman answered, Yes, yes. Then she whispered in his ear, Do you want to make your fortune? And he said, Certainly I do. This feels like a sharp left turn into some weirdness, but okay, we're doing this. Thank you for the follow, One Wesker One. Thank you. We didn't check this before booking the boat, right? And it's only getting weirder. We're not done with this just yet. So she says, Do you want to make your fortune? And he said, Certainly I do. I can tell you how to get a bag of gold, said she. I ask nothing better, said the boatman. Oh no. Well, said the nurse, tonight when the princess is asleep, you must help me to throw her into the sea. And when she is drowned, I will put her beautiful clothes upon my daughter, and we will take her to the king of the peacocks, who will be only too glad to marry her. And as your reward, you shall have your boat full of diamonds. Who said that he would get diamonds for this? Oh my God. The boatman was very much surprised at this proposal and said, But what a pity to drown such a pretty princess. This is a harsh left turn. Wow, okay. However, at last the nurse persuaded him to help her, and when the night came and the princess was fast asleep as usual, with Frisk curled up on his own cushion at the foot of her bed, the wicked nurse fetched the boatman and her daughter, and between them they picked up the princess, feather bed, mattress, pillows, blankets and all, and threw her into the sea, without even waking her. Yeah, now I'm assuming because they just threw a bed, it may or may not float for a while. Yeah, now luckily the princess's bed was made entirely stuffed with phoenix feathers, which are very rare, and have the property of always floating upon water. Aha, of course. So Rosette went on swimming about as if she had been in a boat. After a little while she began to feel very cold, and turned round so that she woke Frisk, who started up and, having a very good nose, smelt the soles and herrings so close to him that he began to bark. He barked so long and so loud that he woke all the other fish, who came swimming up around the princess's bed. It didn't wake the princess, though? Okay. And poking at it with their great heads. As for her, she said to herself, How our boat does rock upon the water. I am really glad that I am not often as uncomfortable as I have been tonight. Open your dang eyes, lady. Okay. The wicked nurse and the boatman, who were by this time quite a long way off, heard Frisk barking and said to each other, That horrid little animal and his mistress are drinking our health in sea water now. Oh, God. Let us make haste to land, for we must be quite near the city of the king of the peacocks. So yeah, this is how the boys die, I guess. The wrong people show up, and the Peacock King will say, That's not what she looks like, and kill them, and it's awful. That's my prediction. Here we go. The king had sent 100 carriages to meet them, drawn by every kind of strange animal. There were lions, bears, wolves, stags, horses, buffaloes, eagles, and peacocks. The carriage intended for the Princess Rosette had 6 blue monkeys, which could turn somersaults and dance on a tightrope, and do many other charming tricks. Cool. But blue monkeys, fun. Green dog, blue monkeys would have been fun to meet. Okay. Their harness was all of crimson velvet with gold buckles, and behind the carriage walked 60 beautiful ladies chosen by the king to wait upon Rosette and amuse her. The nurse had taken all the pains imaginable to deck out her daughter. She put on Rosette's prettiest frock and covered her with diamonds from head to foot. But she was so ugly that nothing could make her look nice. again, with they have to make these villains ugly every time. And what was worse, she was sulky and ill-tempered and did nothing but grumble all the time. Well, being a kid, she probably is here being like, Mom's got me doing the most insane things. This is not going to go well. I'm not the princess. Why do you think you can sell me off as the princess? But sure, let's just say that she was just an awful person in general. The nurse had taken all the pains imaginable, yes, but she was just grumbling. When she stepped from the boat and the escort sent by the king of the peacocks caught sight of her, they were so surprised that they could not say a single word. Now then, look alive, cried the false princess. If you don't bring me something to eat, I will have all your heads cut off. Oh, that is the wrong attitude to sell this, but okay. Then they whispered to one another, here's a pretty state of things. She is as wicked as she is ugly. What a bride for our poor king. She certainly has not worth bringing from the other end of the world. She certainly was not worth bringing from the other end of the world. But she went on, ordering them all about. Okay. And for no fault at all would give slaps and pinches to everyone she could reach. Great. As the procession was so long, it advanced but slowly, and the nurse's daughter sat up in her carriage trying to look like a queen. But the peacocks, who were sitting upon every tree waiting to salute her, and who had made up their minds to cry, Long live our beautiful queen, when they caught sight of the false bride, could not help crying instead, Oh, how ugly she is! Which offended her so much that she said to the guards, Make haste and kill all these insolent peacocks who have dared insult me. Oh, that is definitely the wrong attitude here. But the peacocks only flew away, laughing at her. The rogue of a boatman who noticed all this said softly to the nurse, This is a bad business for us. Gossip, your daughter ought to have been prettier. Bad business for us. Gossip, your daughter ought to have been prettier. But she answered, Be quiet, stupid, or you will spoil everything. You've already spoiled it, dum-dum. Now they told the king that the princess was approaching. Well, said he, did her brothers tell me truly? Is she prettier than her portrait? Sire, they answered, if she were as Sire, they answered, if she were as pretty, that would do very well. That's true, said the king. I, for one, shall be quite satisfied if she is as pretty as the portrait. There you go. Let us go and meet her. For they knew by the uproar that she had arrived, but they could not tell what all the shouting was about. The king thought he could hear the words, How ugly she is, how ugly she is, and he fancied they must refer to some dwarf the princess was bringing with her. Why? Why would it have to be? Oh my god, that's just him. Anyway, it never occurred to him that they could apply to the bride herself. Well, here we go. The Princess Rosette's portrait was carried at the head of the procession, and after it walked the king surrounded by his courtiers. It was all impatience to see the lovely princess, but when he caught sight of the nurse's daughter he was furiously angry, and would not advance another step, for she was really ugly enough to have frightened anybody. What? He cried. Have the two rascals who are my prisoners dared to play me such a trick as this? Do they propose that I shall marry this hideous creature? Let her be shut up in my great tower with her nurse, and those who brought her here, and as for them I will have their heads cut off. Yep. Meanwhile the king and the prince, who knew that their sister must have arrived, had made themselves smart, and sat expecting every minute to be summoned to greet her. So when the jailer came with soldiers and carried them down into a black dungeon, which swarmed with toads and bats, and where they were up to their necks in water, nobody could have been more surprised and dismayed than they were. This is a dismal kind of wedding, they said. Oh, it is. No, not going to be a wedding. What can have happened that we should be treated like this? They must mean to kill us. Yes. And this idea annoyed them very much. 3 days passed before they heard any news, and then the king and the peacocks came and berated them through a hole in the wall. "You have called yourselves king and prince," he cried, "to try and make me marry your sister, but you are nothing but beggars, not worth the water you drink. I mean to make short work with you, and the sword is being sharpened that will cut off your heads." "King of the Peacocks," answered the king angrily, "you had better take care what you are about. I am as good a king as yourself, and have a splendid kingdom, and robes and crowns, and plenty of good red gold to do what I like with. You are pleased to jest about having our heads cut off. Perhaps you think we have stolen something from you?" At first the king of the Peacocks was taken aback by this bold speech, and had half a mind to send them all away together. But his prime minister declared that it would never do to let such a trick as that pass unpunished. Everybody would laugh at him. So the accusation was drawn up against them that they were impostors, and that they had promised the king a beautiful princess in marriage who, when she arrived, proved to be an ugly peasant girl. This accusation was read to the prisoners, who cried out that they had spoken the truth, and that their sister was indeed a princess more beautiful than the day, and that there was some mystery about all this which they could not fathom. Therefore they demanded 7 days in which to prove their innocence. The king of the Peacocks was so angry that he would hardly even grant them this favor, but at last he was persuaded to do so. But will this include actually them seeing if the woman is even their sister? Because I feel like they could be like, our sister would say this to us, like have some sort of way to prove that this is the woman. Don't just have them state their case without ever seeing her either. Okay. Well, all this was going on at court. Let us see what has happened to the real princess. When the day broke, she and Frisk were equally astonished at finding themselves alone upon the sea, with no boat and no one to help them. The princess cried and cried until even the fishes were sorry for her. "Alas," she said, "the king of the Peacocks must have ordered me to be thrown into the sea, because he has changed his mind and did not want to marry me. But how strange of him! I'm sorry, did he know the boatman? How would he have been involved? But you don't know things. You were raised in a tower. It's fine. Okay. But how strange of him, when I should have loved him so much, and we should have been so happy together. You had never met him." Okay. And then she cried harder than ever, for she could not help still loving him. Oh my gosh. So for 2 days they floated up and down the sea, wet and shivering with the cold, and so hungry that when the princess saw some oysters, she caught them. Okay, sorry. When she saw some oysters, she caught them, and she and Frisk both ate some, though they didn't like them at all. When night came, the princess was so frightened that she said to Frisk, "Oh, do please keep on barking, for fear the souls should come and eat us up." Now it happened that they had floated close in to the shore, where a poor old man lived all alone in a little cottage. When he heard Frisk's barking, he thought to himself, "There must have been a shipwreck," for no dogs ever passed that way by any chance. And he went out to see if he could be of any use. He soon saw the princess and Frisk floating up and down, and Rosette, stretching out her hands to him, cried, "Oh, good old man, do save me, or I shall die of cold and hunger." When he heard her cry out so piteously, he was very sorry for her, and ran back into his house to fetch a long boat hook. Then he waded into the water up to his chin, and after being nearly drowned once or twice, he at last succeeded in getting hold of the princess's bed and dragging it on shore. Rosette and Frisk were joyful enough to find themselves once more on dry land, and the princess thanked the old man heartily. Then, wrapping herself in her blankets, she daintily picked her way up to the cottage, on her little bare feet. There the old man lighted a fire of straw, and then drew from an old box his wife's dress and shoes, which the princess put on, and thus roughly clad, looked as charming as possible, and Frisk danced his very best
way to amuse her. The old man saw that Rosette must be some great lady, for her bed coverings were all of satin and gold. He begged that she would tell him all her history, as she might safely trust him. The princess told him everything, weeping bitterly again at the thought that it was by the king's orders that she had been thrown overboard. "And now, my daughter, what is to be done?" said the old man. "You are a great princess, accustomed to fare daintily, and I have nothing to offer you but black bread and radishes, which will not suit you at all. Shall I go and tell the king of the peacocks that you are here? If he sees you, he will certainly wish to marry you." "Oh no," cried Rosette, "he must be wicked, since he tried to drown me. You have no reason to think that he did that. There, he was not associated with your boat at all. It was just a random freaking boat dude and your own nurse and her daughter. Where would the... No. Don't let us tell him, but if you have a little basket, give it to me." The old man gave her a basket, and tying it round Frisk's neck, she said to him, "Go and find the best cooking pot in the town and bring the contents to me." Away went Frisk, and there was no better dinner cooking in all the town than the king's. He adroitly took the cover off the pot and brought all it contained to the princess, who said, "Now go back to the pantry and bring the best of everything you find there." So Frisk went back and filled his basket with white bread and red wine and every kind of sweetmeat until it was almost too heavy for him to carry. How did the dog pull that off? Does he have thumbs? How is he also green? I don't know. Sorry. When the king of the peacocks wanted his dinner, there was nothing in the pot and nothing in the pantry. All the courtiers looked at one another in dismay, and the king was terribly cross. "Oh well," he said, "if there is no dinner, I cannot dine, but take care that plenty of things are roasted for supper." When evening came, the princess said to Frisk, "Go into town and find out the best kitchen, and bring me all the nicest morsels that are being roasted upon the spit." Frisk did as he was told, and as he knew of no better kitchen than the king's, he went in softly, and when the cook's back was turned, he took everything that was upon the spit. As it happened, it was all done to a turn, and looked so good that it made him hungry only to see it. He carried his basket to the princess, who at once sent him back to the pantry to bring all the tarts and sugar plums that had been prepared for the king's supper. The king, as he had had no dinner, was very hungry and wanted his supper early, but when he asked for it, lo and behold, it was all gone, and he had to go to bed half starved and in a terrible temper. Oh no. The next day the same thing happened, and the next, so that for 3 days the king got nothing at all to eat. I feel like that wouldn't happen. They would give him something. Because just when the dinner or the supper was ready to be served, it mysteriously disappeared. At last the prime minister began to be afraid that the king would be starved to death, so he resolved to hide himself in some dark corner of the kitchen, and never took his eyes off the cooking pot. His surprise was great when he presently saw a little green dog with one ear slip softly into the kitchen, uncover the pot, transfer all of its contents to his basket, and run off. The prime minister followed hastily and tracked him all through the town to the cottage of the good old man. Then he ran back to the king and told him that he had found out where all his dinners and suppers went. The king, who was very much astonished, said he should like to go and see for himself. So he set out, accompanied by the prime minister and a guard of archers, and arrived just in time to find the old man and the princess finishing his dinner. And the king ordered that they should be seized and bound with ropes, and Frisk also. When they were brought back to the palace, someone told the king, who said, "Today is the last day of the respite granted to those impostors. They shall have their heads cut off at the same time as these stealers of my dinner." Then the old man went down on his knees before the king and begged for time to tell him everything. Okay. Today is the last day. I don't know which king they're telling, but oh, thank you for the follow, Naughty Nup. Thank you. Um, the old man went down on his knees before the king and begged for some time to tell him everything. While he spoke, the king, for the first time, looked attentively at the princess because he was sorry to see how she cried. And when he heard the old man saying that her name was Rosette, and that she had been treacherously thrown into the sea, he turned head over heels 3 times without stopping. So he just did 3 somersaults? No? But okay. In spite of being quite weak from hunger, and ran to embrace her and untied the ropes which bound her with his own hands, declaring that he loved her with all his heart. You just saw her. You not even heard anything she has anything to say. But okay. Messengers were sent to bring the princes out of the prison, the prince and the king. They're not 2 princes. Anyway, and they came very sadly, believing that they were to be executed at once. The nurse and her daughter and the boatman were also brought. As soon as they came in, Rosette ran to embrace her brothers, while the traitors threw themselves down before her and begged for mercy. The king and the princess were so happy that they freely forgave them. Okay. And as for the good old man, he was splendidly rewarded and spent the rest of his days in the palace. Nice. The king of the peacocks made ample amends to the king and prince for the way in which they had been treated, and did everything in his power to show how sorry he was. Okay, good. The nurse restored to Rosette all her dresses and jewels, and the bushel of gold pieces. The wedding... Okay, all her dresses and jewels and the bushes of gold pieces. The wedding was held at once, and they all lived happily ever after. Even Frisk, who enjoyed the greatest luxury, and never had anything worse than the wing of a partridge for dinner for all the rest of his life. The end. a good way to end that. Just the extra specificity of, and the dog had the best life too. Don't forget the doggo. Fully expected the nurse and boatman to be horribly executed somehow. Yeah, that is usually how that goes. And I'm not exactly on board for completely forgiving them or the horribly executed. Could they not be thrown in the prison that the king and the prince were in? No? Okay. Alright. But the end. They lived happily ever after. The boys didn't lose their heads. They did barely manage to escape the prophecy. But I will say, her not knowing anything about the world is where I want to marry the king of that one. So the tower did cause it. I blame the tower. Okay. Yes, wrong story. But okay. There you go. The end. Just posture check and sniffs up. Okay. We'll just do that. Quick and stretching and posture checking. And then sniffs. Okay. Alright. Yawns forever. Okay. love how so many of these stories are long, yet full of details, and just all wrapped up in one paragraph. They're like an episodal anime when the overarching plot is finally resolved in 1 to 3 episodes. Yes. Or rather, it's like they did everything and then their big finale is in really short. As opposed to the classic nowadays is you have an extra long finale episode or multiple episodes. This one just wraps up in just the one really quick. It's certainly something that they do it like that. But I guess the point is that they like, this is the old plot structure where your climax is the big story, and then since that's what everybody was waiting to find out anyway, you don't waste time wrapping it up because no one wants to listen, I guess, in their kind of thing. We already got the answer. They didn't lose their heads. Good. Okay. Anyway, move on. That was the point. Fascinating to see how story structure has changed. That is really fascinating. I love like analyzing that much, where they focus the energy on stuff. And I'm sure people that do that for a living, focusing on the different old stories, not that long ago stories, current stories, and then like the most now up-to-date stories, like the TikTok story structure, how that is compared to all these older things. I'm sure that that's very fun for them. I think it's very interesting. Well, alright. There was no other redeems. We've got about 45 minutes before I'll wrap up this stream, and then we'll have the stream tonight, and that'll be it. We need more Subway Surfers. Yeah. I could probably make a version of this where I'm reading the story and then the video is just Subway Surfer. Actually, you know what I could do? I could have the story be this, and then the video either me folding origami. More boring. Oh yes, of course it's a joke. Of course it's a joke. Ooh, you can't see me doing eye shifties, but shifty eye. Ooh, I can't. I read one of these stories, and then the video is me playing one of the few games I can play on here. That'll be it next time. I could do that. I think I would want something better. The person we rated recently actually has a Mimi redeem to make a Subway Surfers video play in the corner. Yes, I think we saw that happening. I'm pretty sure that was there when we rated Monday. I think I remember that. It's a good move. It's fun. And now you can tell I was not drinking from a cup. I made one of those very loud noises. But okay, if there's no redeems, the next story I'm thoroughly enticed. It's called The Enchanted Pig. So I mean, do we want to waste time or do we want to jump right into Enchanted Pig time? That redeem is 2,000 points, lol. Oh, a meaty redeem. I imagine that meant Enchanted Pig, you say? Yes. I mean, it's a heck of a title. It's not as crazy a title as we've seen previously, but it's something. Okay, if we're intrigued, then I'll jump into it. We'll do this. Da-da-da. Okay. Boom. The Enchanted Pig.
What could it be about? I wonder. I have no ideas. Could be anything. Okay. We'll jump right in. Once upon a time, there lived a king who had 3 daughters. How much you want to bet the youngest is the one that we care about? just taking a random guess. Okay, sorry. I have 9 ducks. Okay. That's pretty great. Is this related to pig? I'll take 3. But ducks do be a fun time. We have side ducks that show up when Death Note's here. Murderous little side ducks. Are any of your ducks murderous? That's really the important questions here. Wait, I'll take all 9. Then you'll have no ducks to give. Oh yeah. I don't give a duck. Autocorrect. You can guess what it was supposed to say. Anyway. My duck mom, the USA toys. All of that? That's a big span of place to bomb. I would have thought that I'd known it. Wow. Oh, but I'm getting distracted. There's a whole Enchanted Pig story. We only have 40 minutes now to read, so I should probably focus. But no, I do want to know more about your ducks. Okay. All right, yeah, but yes, we have 3 daughters, and I am making the clearly, completely out of nowhere, definitely not based on any sort of pattern recognition in these stories, that the youngest sister is what matters in this story. That is our protagonist. Or central story kicker along. Anyway. Okay, here we go. No, I mean, it's not physically a book that I have here, but it is a collection of stories book. It's the Red Fairy book. But that collection of stories is within a bigger collection of stories on a site. So, like, I'm reading from one of a book from many books. Anyway. Yes and no, I'm reading it from a book. Okay. Yes, here. So, he has 3 daughters. Now it happened that he had to go out to battle, so he called his daughters and said to them, "My dear children, I am obliged to go to the wars." Okay, the Minecraft pig has an enchanted armor. Ooh! We have an enchanted Minecraft pig, maybe. Ooh! I'm intrigued by this understanding of this. We shall imagine it all Minecraft. I'm seeing it now. Okay. My dear children, I'm obliged to... Now I want to record this and put it up as a video with not Subway Surfer video underneath, but Minecraft video underneath that has like Lego animation kind of thing where you you see the Minecraft people doing the... Anyway, sorry. Focus, Raven. Jeez. Okay. Now what happened? He goes to daughter. My dear children, I'm obliged to go to the wars. The enemy is approaching us with a large army. It is a great grief to me to leave you all. During my absence, take care of yourselves and be good girls. Behave well and look after everything in the house. You may walk in the garden, and you may go into all the rooms in the palace except the room at the back in the right-hand corner. Into that you must not enter, for harm would befall you. You may keep your mind easy, father, they replied. We have never been disobedient to you. Go in peace, and may heaven give you a glorious victory. When everything was ready for his departure, the king gave them the keys to all of the rooms and reminded them once more of what he had said. His daughters kissed his hands with tears in their eyes and wished him prosperity, and he gave the eldest the keys. Now, when the girls found themselves alone, they felt so sad and dull that they did not know what to do. So, to pass the time, they decided to work for part of the day, to read for part of the day, and to enjoy themselves in the garden for part of the day. As long as they did this, all went well with them.
But this happy state of things did not last long. Every day they grew more and more curious, and you will see what the end of that was. Generally, you should be higher in the ASMR channels because you're reading and you got a VTuber set up. And moving background with text too. Twitch discovery is low-key bad. Oh, thank you. I wouldn't know how to fix any of that. Although I will say, I have a guess that there is more incentive to push out the people that are already getting lots of followers. And so it's kind of, if you don't jump in immediately. And then there's a little bit of a tilt too. If you're spicier, you catch attention more. And when you're spicier, that means that you will get, again, that little brain, the exponential growth thing. So as long as I'm not spicy, I'm going to probably grow a little bit slower. But I don't know. But thank you very much. And I am growing pretty quickly. I'm excited. I've got 500 somethings followers, so I'm excited. Okay, focusing. All right. They were getting curious, and there will be something that happens. Sisters, said the eldest princess, all day long we sew, spin, and read. We have been several days quite alone, and there is no corner of the garden that we have not explored. We have been in all the rooms of our father's palace and have admired the rich and beautiful furniture. Why should not we go in the room that our father forbade us to enter? Sister, said the youngest, I cannot think how you can tempt us to break our father's command. When he told us not to go into that room, he must have known what he was saying and have had a good reason for saying it. Surely the sky won't fall about our heads if we do go in, said the second princess. Dragons and such like monsters that would devour us will not be hidden in the room. How do you know? And how will our father ever find out that we have gone in? Well, we have read quite a few different stories where the people definitely know when you have gone into the room. There have been fucked up versions of don't go in that room. But okay. Hello, millennial. While they were speaking thus, encouraging each other, they had reached the room. The eldest fitted the key into the lock, and snap, the door stood open. Oh, goodness. Thank you for the follow, Lil Forehead. Lil Forehead, that is so cute. I feel like now I just have to make the, like a a command. I don't think I can do this. I'm sure it would be absolutely insanity in my chat. I can't make this command. But if there's somebody that has a kissed command, somebody kissed your little forehead. So far all we've got in our chat is slap. So someone could slap your little forehead or bonk your little forehead, but that's not good. That's not nice. You should do YouTube because Twitch is horrible. Discovery, to be honest, most of the audience of these big streamers comes from YouTube or TikTok, you know. Yeah, I've got a YouTube, but I just post the streams so far. I keep intending to do more, but I'm not. And trying to put this on TikTok, I don't do this in short form very well. I read longer stories. It just doesn't go very well to do short form. So it's tougher. But look, if I can get my things done, I do have other plans. I'm not gonna quite pull off all the stuffs. Oof, that I'm not getting it done. You know what? Here I am. I'm getting I want your points and the stuffs. It's things that I do want to grow more, and so your suggestions I do want to hear. But at the same time, and I'm not trying to say that your oof is judgy oof, but I was getting nervous that that's what you are saying. And I'm like, hey, I don't need to do that. I know I have plans and ideas for how to make it bigger stuffs, but I'm only going to be able to take it at the pace that I am able to take it at. So I'm trying to not let myself get nervous about that. And hey, we're running out of time to read this Enchanted Pig story, so I better shush and just do the reading, hey? But I do have plans to do lots more. I'm slow. So many things in the other life keep picking up, so I have to do those. But we'll get there. Okay. Oh, thank you, Cage. Yeah, thank you, all of you. You guys doing great. It's all right. You'll make it though, Cage. Yeah, like I'll get there. We're just going at our own pace, I guess. And that's fine. Um, Now I don't remember where we were. Oh, yes. The door clicked open. The three girls entered. And what do you think they saw? Well, I don't know, Story. Why are you asking me? Nodding up. Oh, that is some stinky cheese. Next time Vi raids in, that's the kind of cheese we need to give out. We should all be quiet. Oh, no, it's okay. This is classic. I get distracted so quick. I need to nod. It's on me. It's not you. Okay. What do you think they saw? Well, now the story will tell me. The room was quite empty and without any ornament, but in the middle stood a large table with a gorgeous cloth, and on it lay a big open book. Now the princesses were curious to know what was written in the book, especially the eldest, and this is what she read. Okay. The eldest daughter will marry of this king. The eldest daughter of this king, sorry, misread that. The eldest daughter will marry of this king. Jeez, I keep doing it. Oh, okay. I rewound. Where's that? Okay. The eldest daughter of this king will marry a prince from the east. The second girl stepped forward and turning over the page, she read, the second daughter of this king will marry a prince from the west. The girls were delighted and laughed and teased each other. But the youngest princess did not want to go near the table or to open the book. She was the one that didn't want to go in the room. Her elder sisters, however, left her no peace, and will she, nil she, they dragged her up to the table, and in fear and trembling she turned over the page and read, the youngest daughter of this king will be married to a pig from the north. Oh no. Now if a thunderbolt had fallen upon her from heaven, it would not have frightened her more. Okay, that's very cute. She almost died of misery, and if her sisters had not held her up, she would have sunk to the ground and cut her head open. When she came out of the fainting fit into which she had fallen in her terror, her sisters tried to comfort her, saying, how can you believe such nonsense? When did it ever happen that a king's daughter married a pig? Well, I don't know, but apparently she gonna. What a baby you are, said the other sister. Has not our father enough soldiers to protect you, even if the disgusting creature did come to woo you? I'm just imagining her standing there like, I didn't even want to fucking read the book. You did it. And now I'm the one who marries the pig. Fuck you. I can just see her getting really upset about it. Because they were just squabbling. But I knew it would be the youngest that really cinches the story. I called it. Oh yeah, there you go. I absolutely will do those if I need. Oh, thank you for the follow now. Rex did. I don't know if I say that right, but I try and say it every time someone follows. Mm-hmm. Yes, they have done such. Cage will pull that trigger if needed. Okay, the the princess is freaking out over marrying the pig. The youngest princess would fain have let herself be convinced by her sister's words, and have believed what they said, but her heart was heavy. Her thoughts kept turning to the book, in which stood written with great happiness waited her sisters,
But what a fate was in store for her, such as never before been known in the world. Well, knowing this, we're going to have a really pretty pig or a magical pig, and or that pig turns into a really pretty man. So I think it's going to be fine, girl. You're okay. I think you're going to be good. And I think that this is maybe why Dad didn't want you guys to look in that room. I don't know, just a guess. Okay. Besides, the thought weighed on her heart that she had been guilty of disobeying her father. Yeah. Oh. She began to get quite ill, and in a few days she was so changed that it was difficult to recognize her. Oh no! Formerly she had been rosy and merry. Now she was pale, and nothing gave her any pleasure. She gave up playing with her sisters in the garden, ceased to gather flowers to put in her hair, and never sang when they sat together at their spinning and sewing. Oh no! Okay. In the meantime, the king won a great victory, and having completely defeated and driven off the enemy, he hurried home to his daughters, to whom his thoughts had constantly turned. Everyone went out to meet him with cymbals and files and drums, and there was great rejoicing over his victorious return. The king's first act on reaching home was to thank heaven for the victory he had gained over the enemies who had risen against him. He then entered his palace, and the 3 princesses stepped forward to meet him. His joy was great when he saw that they were all well, for the youngest did her best to not appear sad. Oh. In spite of this, however, it was not long before the king noticed that his 3rd daughter was getting very thin and sad-looking. And all of a sudden he felt as if a hot iron were entering his soul, for it flashed through his mind that she had disobeyed his word. He felt sure he was right, but to be quite certain he called his daughters to him, questioned them, and ordered them to speak the truth. They confessed everything, but took good care not to say which had led the other 2 into temptation. Well, it was the 2 that led the 1, really, but okay. The king was so distressed when he heard it that he was almost overcome by grief. But he took heart and tried to comfort his daughters, who looked frightened to death. He saw that what had happened, and that 1,000 words would not alter matters by a hair's breadth. Well, these events had almost been forgotten, when one fine day a prince from the east appeared at the court and asked the king for the hand of his eldest daughter. The king gladly gave his consent. A great wedding banquet was prepared, and after 3 days of feasting, the happy pair were accompanied to the frontier with much ceremony and rejoicing. Ooh, I don't know if we're going to pull off skipping ads, but we're going to try. Okay, focus. After some time, the same thing befell the 2nd daughter, who was wooed and won by a prince from the west. Now when the young princess saw that everything fell out exactly as had been written in the book, she grew very sad. She refused to eat, and would not put on her fine clothes nor go out walking, and declared that she would rather die than become a laughing-stock to the world. But the king would not allow her to do anything so wrong, and he comforted her in all the possible ways. So the time passed, till lo and behold, one fine day an enormous pig from the north walked into the palace, and going straight up to the king, said, "Hail, O king! May your life be as prosperous and bright as sunrise on a clear day. If anyone has watched Disenchantment, I'm hearing Merkimer the pig." I can't do the impression, but I'm hearing his voice as I read it. "I am glad to see you well, friend," answered the king. "But what wind has brought you hither?" "I came a-wooing," replied the pig. Now the king was astonished to hear so fine a speech from a pig, and at once it occurred to him that something strange was the matter. He would gladly have turned the pig's thoughts in another direction, as he did not wish to give him the princess for a wife. But when he heard that the court and the whole street were full of all the pigs in the world, he saw that there was no escape, that he must give his consent. Yes, the pig can talk. They always do this. The pig was not satisfied with mere promises, but insisted that the wedding should take place within a week, and would not go away till the king had sworn a royal oath upon it. The king then sent for his daughter and advised her to submit to fate, as there was nothing else to be done, and he added, "My child, the words and the whole behavior of this pig are quite unlike those of other pigs. I do not myself believe that he always was a pig. Depend upon it some magic or witchcraft has been at work. Obey him and do everything that he wishes, and I feel sure that heaven will shortly send you release." "If you wish me to do this, dear father, I will do it," replied the girl. In the meantime, the wedding day drew near. After the marriage, the pig and his bride set out for his home in one of the royal carriages. On the way they passed a great bog, and the pig ordered the carriage to stop, and got out and rolled about in the mire till he was covered with mud from head to foot. Then he got back into the carriage and told his wife to kiss him. I'm reading this as a disgusting, test on a woman. You have to obey your husband. You have to do this. But, Rexted, I'm probably not gonna be able to get to the comb twig, so I'm gonna refund it there. Just because we're gonna just finish the story and have to leave, I think. But okay, I don't like that this is reading like a human man testing her by ooh, there's dirt, I'm gonna roll in the dirt, and if she's a proper good woman, quote unquote, she obeys me, she'll still kiss me, like that kind of thing, and I don't like it. But okay. What was the poor girl to do? She bethought herself of her father's words, and pulling out her pocket handkerchief, she gently wiped the pig's snout and kissed it. By the time they reached the pig's dwelling, which stood in a thick wood, it was quite dark. They sat down quietly for a little, as they were tired after their drive. Then they had supper together and lay down to rest. During the night, the princess noticed that the pig had changed into a man. There you go. She was not a little surprised, but remembering her father's words, she took courage, determined to wait and see what would happen. And now she noticed that every night the pig became a man, and every morning he was changed into a pig before she awoke. This happened several nights running, and the princess could not understand it at all. Clearly her husband must be bewitched. In time she grew quite fond of him, he was so kind and gentle. One fine day, as she was sitting alone, she saw an old witch go past. She felt quite excited, as it was so long since she had seen a human being, and she called out to the old woman to come and talk to her. Among other things, the witch told her that she understood all magic arts, that she would foretell the future, and knew the healing powers of herbs and plants. "I shall be grateful to you all my life, old dame," said the princess, "if you will tell me what is the matter with my husband. Why is he a pig by day and a human being by night?" "I was just going to tell you that one thing, my dear, to show you what a good fortune teller I am. If you like, I will give you a herb to break the spell." "If you will only give it to me," said the princess, "I will give you anything you choose to ask for I cannot bear to see him in this state." "Here then, my dear child," said the witch, "take this thread, but do not let him know about it, for if he did he would lose its healing power. It would lose its healing power. At night when he is asleep you must get up very quietly and fasten the thread around his left foot as firmly as possible, and you will see in the morning he will not have changed into a pig, but he will still be a man. I do not want any reward. I shall be sufficiently repaid by knowing that you are happy. It almost breaks my heart to think of all you have suffered, and I only wish I had known it sooner, as I should have come to your rescue at once." When the old witch had gone away, the princess hid the thread very carefully, and at night she got up quietly, and with a beating heart she bound the thread round her husband's foot. Just as she was pulling the knot tight, there was a crack, and the thread broke, for it was rotten. "Oh no! Thank you for the follow, Kingly Wave, thank you." Her husband awoke with a start and said to her, "Unhappy woman, what have you done? 3 days more and this unholy spell would have fallen from me, and now who knows how long I may have to go about in this disgusting shape. I must leave you at once, and we shall not meet again until you have worn out 3 pairs of iron shoes and blunted a steel staff in your search for me.
So saying, he disappeared. Now when the princess was left alone, she began to weep and moan in a way that was pitiful to hear. But when she saw that her tears and groans did her no good, she got up, determined to go wherever fate should lead her. I'm wondering, why didn't Pigman tell her? Why didn't he ever let her know that? If it was fine for him to tell her then, why not say it before? Like, saying it theoretically didn't change it. So, anyway. On reaching a town, the first thing she did was order 3 pairs of iron sandals and a steel staff. And having made these preparations for her journey, she set out in search of her husband. On and on she wandered over 9 seas and across 9 continents. There's 9 continents? Okay. Through forests with trees whose stems were as thick as beer barrels, stumbling and knocking herself against the fallen branches, then picking herself up and going on. The boughs of the trees hit her face, and the shrubs tore her hands, but on she went, and never looked back. At last, wearied with her long journey and worn out and overcome with sorrow, but still with hope at her heart, she reached a house. Now who do you think lived here? The moon. The princess knocked at the door and begged to be let in that she might rest a little. The mother of the moon, when she saw her sad plight, felt a great pity for her, and took her in and nursed and tended her. And while she was here, the princess had a little baby. She what? she what? Um I'm sorry, but are we doing the math on this right? How long was her journey? We never specified exactly how long her journey was, so there's 2 options here. Girl was unfaithful. She had her fun while on the journey, and it's been a long journey. Or it's not been quite so long a journey. It did say 9 seas and 9 continents, which there's not 9 continents. Why are we saying 9? Makes me wonder if it's exactly 9 months long. And in which case, I mean, they were married. It's her husband. But, like, it's a pig. It's a pig. And she was so grossed out. Okay, we're going to have to run a quick 30-second ad because this thing is going to force it. But I think that this is the best time when I'm still freaking out. So here we go. This is something, huh? Okay. I don't have very much time to finish this story, but like I have to give myself a minute to just freak out about this cuz this is just ridiculous. Cool. Okay. Nah. No, this is fine. This is fine. This is fine. Okay, so she had her baby. All right. Okay. This is fine. Okay. Oh, the princess was there. She had a little baby. Yay. One day, the mother of the moon, so she's hanging out at the moon's house for a little while, I guess. One day, the mother of the moon asked her, "How was it possible for you, a mortal, to get hither to the house of the moon?" "You didn't ask that the first day, Moon Mama? No? Okay." When the poor princess told her all that happened to her, and added, "I shall always be thankful to heaven for leading me hither, and grateful to you that you took pity on me and my baby, and did not leave us to die. Now I beg one last favor of you. Can your daughter, the moon—" Oh, hey, the moon's a lady. We like it. Just so often they make every significant character a man, so that's nice. "Tell me where my husband is."
"She cannot tell you that, my child," replied the goddess. "But if you will travel towards the east until you reach the dwelling of the sun, he may be able to tell you something. Oh, don't tell me we go on and meet all the winds too. Don't make this happen like this again." My girlfriend turned into the moon. You're right. I should have known. I should have known. You're right, Cage. I should have. Okay. Okay. So, all right. She can. You gotta go to the east to the sun. Here you go. Then she gave the princess a roast chicken to eat and warned her to be very careful not to lose any of the bones because they might be of great use to her. Okay. And you've got a baby to carry along with you now. Okay. When the princess had thanked her once more for her hospitality and for her good advice, and had thrown away one pair of shoes that were worn out, she's finally got through one pair of the steel shoes, so she still has a long way to go more. Roughly another 9 months to go. If it took her 9 months to get through one set of shoes, theoretically 9 months, that whole long walk journey, she's still got to do that twice more. So she's going to be gone a long time. This pig man will have not met his baby for a long time, which is a lot, considering he said that it would only be 2 more days before it would have been fixed and everything. Oh, thank you for the hydrate. I'll do hydrate. Sorry. Oh my god. Wild stories. Wild, wild, wild. Okay, we gotta go. So she changed out her shoes, put on a second pair. She tied up the chicken bones in a bundle, and taking her baby in her arms and her staff in her hand, she set out once more on her wanderings. On and on and on she went across bare sandy deserts where the roads were so heavy that for every 2 steps that she took forwards she fell back one, but she struggled on till she had passed those dreary plains. Next she crossed high rocky mountains, jumping from crag to crag, from peak to peak. Sometimes she would rest for a little on a mountain, and then start afresh, always farther and farther on. Farther on. She had to cross swamps and to scale mountain peaks covered with flints, so that her feet and knees and elbows were all torn and bleeding. And sometimes she came to a precipice across which she could not jump, and she had to crawl around on hands and knees, helping herself along with the staff. How did she make sure the baby came along too then? But okay. At length, wearied to death, she reached the palace in which the sun lived. Okay, well, the other one was just a little house, so I guess the moon lives more humbly than the sun. She knocked and begged for admission. The mother of the sun opened the door and was astonished at beholding a mortal from the distant earthly shores, and wept with pity when she heard of all that she had suffered. Then, having promised to ask her son about the princess's husband, she hid her in the cellar. Why? So that the son might notice nothing on his return home, for he was always in a bad temper when he came in at night. The next day the princess feared that things would not go well with her, for the son had noticed that someone from the other world had been in the palace. But his mother had soothed him with her soft words, assuring him that this was not so. So the princess took heart when she saw how kindly she was treated and asked, "But how in the world is it possible for the sun to be angry? He is so beautiful and so good to mortals." "I'm more curious, how are you going to ask him something if you're saying that you don't exist, that you're not there? But okay." "This is how it happens," replied the sun's mother. "In the morning, when he stands at the gates of paradise, he is happy and smiles on the whole world. But during the day he gets cross, because he sees all the evil deeds of men, and that is why his heat becomes so scorching. But in the evening he is both sad and angry, for he stands at the gates of death. That is his usual course. From there he comes back here." She then
Sorry. She then told the princess that she had asked about her husband, but that her son had replied that he knew nothing about him, and that her only hope was to go and inquire of the wind. Of course, but at least in this case it's one singular wind, hopefully. In these wanderings she met with even greater difficulties than before, for she came upon one mountain of flints after another, out of which tongues of fire would flame up. She passed through woods which had never been trodden by human foot, and had to cross fields of ice and avalanches of snow. Hey, thank you for gifting, anonymous gifter. Okay, so we have a tradition you must follow. Whenever there's a gift, we drop raining money frog emotes. So that is what that is. Now that you have been gifted a subscription, you must have your raining money frogs. There you go. So use your emotes. Say thank you to an anonymous gifter, but thank you. Money frog, money frog. Okay. It was worse than even before looking for the wind. Avalanches of snow. That was it, right? Okay. The poor woman nearly died of these hardships, but she kept a brave heart, and at length she reached an enormous cave in the side of a mountain. This was where the wind lived. There was a little door in the railing in front of the cave, and here the princess knocked and begged for admission. The mother of the wind had pity on her and took her in, that she might rest a little. Here too she was hidden away so that the wind might not notice her. The next morning the mother of the wind told her that her husband was living in a thick wood, so thick that no axe had been able to cut a way through it. Here he had built himself a sort of house by placing trunks of trees together and fastening them with withes, and here he lived alone, shunning humankind. Aww. After the mother of the wind had given the princess a chicken to eat, and had warned her to take care of the bones, she advised her to go by the Milky Way, which at night lies across the sky, and to wander on till she reached her goal. Hey, I don't think we got a gender for the wind, so we had a woman, moon, a man, sun, and wind. I like it. But we also finally got our answer. This is where we find a freaking husband. We didn't have to go through 4 winds. We only had to have one. Having thanked the old woman with tears in her eyes. Oh, but we only got 2 chickens. The sun never gave us a chicken and bones. We only got 2 chickens. I wonder why. Okay. Having thanked the old woman with tears in her eyes for her hospitality and for the good news that she'd given her, the princess set out on her journey and rested neither night or day. So great was her longing to see her husband again. And how's the baby faring all this time? And how long has it been? How much has the baby grown? But okay. On and on she walked until her last pair of shoes fell in pieces. Finally. So she threw them away and went on with bare feet. Oh, not good. Not heeding the bogs nor the thorns that wounded her, nor the stones that bruised her. At last she reached a beautiful green meadow on the edge of a wood. Her heart was cheered by the sight of the flowers and the soft cool grass, and she sat down and rested for a little. But hearing the birds chirping to their mates among the trees made her think with longing of her husband. And she wept bitterly, and taking her child in her arms and her bundle of chicken bones on her shoulder, she entered the wood. For 3 days and 3 nights she struggled through it, but could find nothing. She was quite worn out with the weariness and hunger, and even her staff was no further help for her, for in her many wanderings it had become quite blunted. She almost gave up in despair, but she made one last great effort, and suddenly, in a thicket, she came upon the sort of house that the mother of wind had described. It had no windows, and the door was up in the roof. Round the house she went in search of steps, but she could find none. What was she to do? How was she to get in? She thought and thought. She tried in vain to climb up to the door. Then suddenly she bethought her of the chicken bones that she had dragged all that weary way, and she said to herself, "They would not have told me to take such good care of these bones if they had not had some good reason for doing so. Perhaps now in my hour of need they may be of use to me." So she took the bones out of her bundle, and having thought for a moment she placed the two ends together. To her surprise, they stuck tight. Then she added the other bones, till she had two long poles the height of the house. That's why two chicken. Okay. These she placed against the wall, at a distance of a yard from one another. Across them she placed the other bones, piece by piece, like the steps of a ladder. Oh, okay. As soon as one step was finished, she stood upon it and made the next one. Chicken bones are strong enough for this? Okay. Then the next, till she was close to the door. But just as she got near the top, she noticed there were no bones left for the last rung of the ladder. What was she to do? Without that last step, the whole ladder was useless. She must have lost one of the bones. Then suddenly an idea came to her. No! No! Taking a knife, she chopped off her little finger, and placing it on the last step, it stuck as the bones had done. It's a pinky finger. It's not a step. It's what? The ladder was complete, and with her child on her arm, she entered the door of the house. Here she found everything in perfect order. Having taken some food, she laid the child down to sleep in a trough that was on the floor, and sat herself down to rest. Do not put your child in a trough where you know a pig lives. Don't do that. That's a bad idea. Oh no. When her husband, the pig, came back to the house, no idea how he gets into the house. He's a pig. He can't reach the top. She needed a ladder, but okay. When he came back to the house, he was startled by what he saw. At first he could not believe his eyes, and stared at the ladder of bones and at the little finger at the top of it. He felt that some fresh magic must be at work, and in his terror he almost turned away from the house. But then a better idea came to him, and he changed himself into a dove, so that no witchcraft could have power over him. You could just turn into a dove this whole time? Lovely. And flew into the room without touching the ladder. Here he found a woman rocking a child. At the sight of her, looking so changed by all that she had suffered for his sake, his heart was moved by such love and longing, by so great a pity, that he suddenly became a man. Ah, yay. Thank you for the follow, Ostinator. Thank you. Okay. The princess stood up when she saw him, and her heart beat with fear, for she did not know him. So you didn't recognize him? This confirms this confirms it wasn't pig time when we made baby with him, so maybe other baby, but it says it's his baby, so I don't know. I don't like this. It was pig him, and that makes me uncomfy. Okay. Awful. Right. But when he had told her who he was, in her great joy she forgot all her sufferings, and they seemed as nothing to her. He was a very handsome man, as straight as a fir tree. They sat down together, and she told him all her adventures, and he wept with pity at the tale. Then he told her his own history. "I'm a king's son. Once when my father was fighting against some dragons, who were the scourge of our country, I slew the youngest dragon. His mother, who was a witch, cast a spell over me and changed me into a pig. It was she who, in the disguise of an old woman, gave you the thread to bind round my foot, so that instead of the 3 days that had to run before the spell was broken, I was forced to remain a pig for 3 more years." So the baby is 3 years old now. Okay. Now that we have suffered for each other and have found each other again, let us forget the past. And in their joy, they kissed each other. Yay. Next morning, they set out early to return to his father's kingdom. Great was the rejoicing of all the people when they saw him and his wife. His father and his mother embraced them both, and there was feasting in the palace for 3 days and 3 nights. Then they set out to see her father. The old king nearly went out of his mind with joy at beholding his daughter again.
When she had told him all her adventures, he said to her, "Did I not tell you that I was quite sure that creature who wooed and won you as his wife had not been born a pig? You see, my child, how wise you were in doing what I told you." Was it wise, or she just had given up? Because it sounded like she got super depressed and then just like gave up on life. But sure, okay. And as the king was old and had no heirs, he put them on the throne in his place, and they ruled as only kings rule who have suffered many things. If they are not dead, they are still living and ruling happily. We've had that kind of last sentence before. If they're not dead, they're still living happily. So that's lovely. But okay, that's to the end there. Oh, yay. Yes, he was a dragon slayer, and for that he became Pig. What a time. But there you go. That's the end of the Enchanted Pig, finally. Alright. That was the stream for now. We'll do another stream later tonight, and it will be spooky stories that were all recommended on my Discord. So we have that. Chicken bones? Is that what you mean? But okay, so I will see you guys at the next stream. It will be spooky stories and recommendations from the Discord, and I will get stuff. Bye bye. You can call me Raven. But yes, alright. Have a good night, everybody. This is what I was doing. Thank you for watching. There you go. I did the thing. Yes, I will see you guys soon. Alrighty. Well, bye.